Hi, welcome to Geek and Biscuits with your hosts Dan and Grant.
Hello there, Dan.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, that was my pretty terrible Obi-Wan Kenobi impression.
Hello there.
And I don't think he said Dan as well, but never mind.
You should have done.
He should have done, yeah.
Yeah. Well, on today's
Dan
show,
Grievous.
I need some extra arms.
Yeah.
General Kenobi. So today's podcast, we'll be talking all things Ghostbusters.
Can't wait.
Yes,
Can't wait.
very excited. Looking forward to this one. Let's kick everything off. What was your introduction to Ghostbusters? What's your earliest memory of Ghostbusters?
There's two things. I don't know which order they came in. One, speaking to my dad about a cartoon that I would like that's starting after school. I can't remember which channel it was on. One of the 4 ones because I'm that old. And then the toy line.
Yes. Yep.
So obviously it's the cartoon, the Real Ghostbusters. But I genuinely don't know what came first. I can just remember racing home from school, being really excited and seeing the intro where you get the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all come down into the trap, and like I was sold after that. And just thinking about it now, I don't know whether I believe that the cartoon came first, which is such a child kind of like thing to imagine that would be. Like the quality of the 1984 original would be based off a children's cartoon. But what about you? Are you the same?
Yeah, the same.
Was only
Yes.
like a year between us or 2 years, so
Yeah, it was finishing school and going and have my tea. Cartoons would go on. Maybe, whatever, Thomas the Tank Engine, whatever,
yeah.
blah blah. And then it would be Real Ghostbusters, which obviously it's sort of, we'll get into later. But that was the introduction, the theme song, the characters, Slimer, Staple Marshmallow Man, all these things. It just it was all there. It was all there. So, but then obviously the film. The franchise itself came out later today. I think I probably saw Ghostbusters 2 before I saw Ghostbusters.
I would say so, yeah.
It just seemed to be, I don't know whether it's ITV or whoever, was just normally ITV would show that one more often, or I had it probably videotaped it off the telly. That might be, yeah. So definitely the cartoon series, and again the toy line, because I had Ecto One. I remember
Fire Station. Did you have the?
No, I didn't. I didn't have the Fire Station, no, but I had like the special. They did like a couple of versions of the Ghostbusters, I remember, and they had like Egon.
Yeah.
You had the normal suit on, and you had Egon in a white jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Because they're all like, did Egon wear like a pastel green
Yes.
with a pink collar or something like that?
Yeah.
But this one had white on it, and you squeezed his arm.
Did his eyes pop out?
His eyes popped out.
I had the same one, yeah.
And they all did something weird. They all like just
one of
really
them's
random.
his face came into the stomach or something like that. One of the toys, yeah. I'm sure that me and my sister used to collect them, and I'm sure she used to have Peter.
Yeah.
I used to have Egon toys, so.
I had a Venkman, yeah. But I also had the proton pack with the foam.
Yeah, so did I.
The foam beam, and the I had a projector that made noises, and it was like it was a rotating disc of different ghosts from the animated series.
Did it flash on the wall?
Yes, mate. Yeah, it did.
I believe that I had that. Yeah, as well. That was
shut all the doors on the upstairs and sit on the landing and play with it, and feeling epic. Yeah, yeah. Grown up shit.
Sod your Wi-Fi. Buy me a torch.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I want to be a Ghostbuster. Walk out.
Yeah.
So shall we talk about obviously like Ghostbusters itself, the original, the 1984 classic. How could you put that into words that that, because I know you absolutely adore Ghostbusters. So how would you? Let's say you were trying to sell it to someone who hadn't seen it before.
This is a very good question because often I find myself, with lists, you always like a lot of videos at the minute are top 10 movies, top 10
Yes.
movies that have, I don't know, a bit of comedy in them, top 10 horrors. And to me, I find it really a difficult sell because the name, for me, and I believe what it was intentionally sold as, was almost like a bunch of exterminators. So Ghostbusters would be a perfect name for a perfect film, in my opinion. But I think as time's gone on and people's kind of forgotten about that, like the generations after seem to go, well, like a bit of a shrug of the shoulders, and almost like it sounds a little bit like a kid's cartoon, which I find a little bit ludicrous, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially so, if you say comedy, do you expect more outright gags? So if you say horror, do you expect more scares?
Yeah.
So I find it. Do you think that's why maybe the film works so perfectly because it cannot be described and broken down so easily? It's a comedy about four men saving New York from ghosts, but it's not just about ghosts, is it? There's a reason why everything happens and a reason why they're all there. So
I think what works really well is that you've got your scientists, and obviously you've got your audience character in Winston, but
yeah,
Venkman is your everyman, and
yeah,
and that's what the genius of it. It opens. Obviously, you get the library ghost at the start. You get that whole great section. That first scene sets up the paranormal side of the film brilliantly
absolutely,
well. You get all those little creepy, Elmer Bernstein's music's just little sort of violin sort of
yeah,
scrapings and everything's brilliant. And then obviously the books floating off the shelves and everything, it sort of builds that creepiness.
yeah.
And then you meet Pete Venkman straight away. This guy's a complete tosser.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's doing his psychic test. And he's completely ripping into that lad with the massive throw.
Marvelous.
Yeah. And all he's wanted to do is get that young student in bed.
Yeah, it's doing it to
Com-
get laid. Yeah,
that's it. That's his entire
nice.
reason. So he's just slacking off. He's sort of picked what would seem a ludicrous subject to be a professor in, to be a to have a doctorate in. And then even after their original encounter, obviously you meet Ray and Egon. Ray's so excitable. He's like a little kid. This is the best thing that's ever happened to him. He's so like, his energy's
like a puppy.
so yeah, definitely, yeah. And then Egon's just so straight laced, and
Yeah, fantastic.
But the scene directly after, when they're getting kicked out of the college, the dean quite rightly goes out of his way and singles out Venkman for how lazy he is and how awful his work has been, and that he's just he's a poor scientist.
Yeah,
And that's that sort of pushing with the characters that it's Venkman who seems to be the reason they're really out of college.
yeah.
Then it's Venkman who puts the idea in their head that they should go into exterminations in the first place, get in
Yeah, doesn't it
to
get
Real
Ray
Ghost's
like?
house.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Doesn't either one gets him into like years worth of debt?
Oh, but what such a great introduction to those characters.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's like you were saying about the music though. Straight away, like if this was some kind of alternate reality, which would be a lot poorer for the lack of a film in 1984 called Ghostbusters, and someone was pitching this now to a studio to make, do you think you'd get the same kind of? I just can't see it. It would be those. I'd feel it'd be like as much as I do like the 1999 Mummy film with Brendan Fraser. It's a certain style, a certain tone. It's not offensive. It's not scary. It's done to it knows exactly where it wants to tread and bring in a big audience. Whereas Ghostbusters, like think about the score. you legitimately put that film on, you know nothing about it. You
Yeah.
just sat down watching it. You don't know it's called Ghostbusters or anything. I would honestly, I think because they play the horror aspect so straight. Obviously, we later on we talk about what 60-foot giant marshmallow walking around, but I mean, like the books going around, like you said, the score, the build up to the old lady screaming and then a title kind of coming on
Yeah.
screen. So we see so much that is set out at the time, like probably a traditional horror film.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, you see these characters come in and you think, well, these don't kind of really fit an horror film. And it's that aspect of it's not a comedy.
Hmm.
Everything's situational.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I can answer your maybe there is somebody out there that I just don't feel that many people have given it justice when they say, oh yeah, it's a comedy film. Well, no, it's not, is it? Well, it's not scary, is it? No, but I remember me and my sister watching this, Dan, and every time it got to the scene where Sigourney Weaver's sat on the chair,
Oh, with the
and
arms.
she's just
Yeah.
been, yeah, the arms come out, and then the like kitchen door opens and the dog's there,
Yeah.
and it like covers her mouth and drags her in. From my point of view, it was one of those moments as a kid where you want to watch it, you don't go away, but it's tense, and you
Yeah.
think, oh,
Yeah.
but you was never scared. You'd never think about it afterwards. It was always just one of those things.
Yeah.
Whereas sister was obviously like really freaked out by it, and like the bit with the possession where she's floating above the bed or 6 feet above her covers. And when she obviously does that voice, it's quite
Yeah.
creepy. So things like that. I think it's just like Bill Murray's reaction to some of those, like
Yeah.
Ray's excitable reaction, because it's not a film where they're reacting to things for the first time. They've been studying and want to see those. So we see it through somebody who's like Venkman, who's probably not even interested, who still thinks it's the end of the world or get laid or make some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saving the world comes third.
Well, that's the thing, because like their reaction to it initially is, they've got all this, the science backs it up and everything, but that first encounter,
Yeah,
they have no idea what to do,
yeah, exactly.
and it's that whole, what do we do now?
Yeah,
And it's, one of us should talk to her. It's very stuttered. It's very,
yeah,
it's an awkward little exchange between that. Is it Pete and the library ghost, and
yeah.
then Ray's like, "Oh, I've got an idea. Get her."
Yeah. That should be standard advice for everybody.
What are they going to do? That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
brilliant. But that follows on, and I think you're right. I think the film would work if you were to replace those characters as straight laced characters. It would work as a very traditional ghost story. I think you could play it very straight and everything.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's the actors that they've picked. It's them who make, again, it's situational comedy. It's these guys who make it funny.
Yeah,
Venkman is outline almost cheeky brashness, Lewis,
yeah. Hilarious.
yeah,
Rick Moranis
Rick
is
Moranis,
hilarious.
yeah. Sigourney Weaver is probably one of the few characters who plays it completely straight,
Yeah,
um, and it works obviously for Dana because she's not experienced anything like this before.
no,
Lewis, we're made to feel it, there's a bit of mockery towards him,
yeah,
but you know, you just it's another person in Dana's world who's reliable, but a little bit, sort of
yeah,
a little bit odd. There's
yeah.
not a lot going on socially. But then to pair those two up as the keymaster and the gatekeeper,
It's
uh,
fantastic.
it's brilliant. Yeah, it's great. It's just, and
Yeah,
it plays so well.
nicely. Well, that's it. Nicely plays into the fact of their history together, which we won't see. Is that Sigourney Weaver is a successful woman, where Lewis is, like you said, he's a bit of a mockery to people and how he looks, how he acts, how he is. So the fact that Lewis does get his dream, just
Yeah,
not how he'd like it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. So, but again, it's surrounded by this cast. You got, we'll talk about Ernie Hudson in a minute. But just like Annie Potts as Janine,
Yeah,
she's great. She's so good.
yeah,
She
yeah.
doesn't,
She,
in the first one, she doesn't have a great deal to do.
no,
but she's amazingly. She's so sarcastic and so sort of.
I've quit better jobs than this.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Stop looking at me, Gene. You got the thing with the bug eyes. Sorry about the bug eyes, Gene. It's great. It's great. Ernie Hudson. Obviously, Winston comes in about a third of the way in. So
yeah,
something like that. He's not a scientist. He's your everyman. He's your audience character, but fits in stupidly well straight away. And that's the first thing I'd seen Ernie Hudson in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the same. Yeah.
But he just gels so well, especially for a character who does come in so late, and you've already had the other characters established quite well within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it doesn't hinder their arc or their story, or their unit.
Yeah.
Works so
well. I don't know about you, but as like when I was a little bit younger, I always was a little baffled by like his name not on the posters. The three of them sometimes just on a poster.
Yeah.
And I know some people are a bit annoyed, like he doesn't get the love he deserves. But like you said, he comes in a third way into the movie or so, and he just rounds off everything nicely. Yes. And his job's not to be equal billing fourth. He's a paid employer. These guys are partners. He's a paid employee. Just because he's a Ghostbuster doesn't mean that the fact that he's on their level. And I think if the film would have tried to push him out and, like you said, give him more to do, give him his own real big arc fitted in with everybody else, I think it would have detracted away from it, because you've already got a supporting character. Lewis is given, like Rick Moranis, is given so much to do. And then there's Sigourney Weaver. And like you said, you've got Addie Potts, you've got all and obviously let's not forget Walter Peck as well. So,
yes, yeah.
So it's already got so many memorable characters in that. I think that, like you said, Winston is an extension of the audience as well, even though we have Peter that's kind of some of the like ridiculous reactions to like what's going off here. Do you know what I mean? As the audience, you can relate more to Peter rather than you can relate to Egon or Ray, yeah. Bless them. Yeah. So, no, I think that's something that I've maybe on further rewatches years later thought actually they have played it perfectly, because I think I saw a question on forum years ago. It's always thought about it. It's, if you had to make one improvement to the movie, what would it be? But it was like an enforced kind of, you can't say it's perfect. No film has nothing you couldn't change. Like, so maybe then I'll just like go to that and ask you, is there, myself, it is in my top 10 films ever made. It is iconic of Hollywood to me. When I think of Hollywood films, classic films, this is one of the first films that comes to mind. So, on that, would there be anything you'd change about it? Whether it be something minor to a special effect, obviously we can't judge it by today's standards.
Yeah.
But whether it would be like to add running length to something, to the film, or add a certain section, or replace a character, or do anything. Is there anything you could think of that would? It's such a difficult question to even think about, because I think once you start, that's what reminded me of Ernie Hudson's part in the film, is that I always thought as a kid naively, there's 4 Ghostbusters, why is one of them not on a poster? But then when you think about how the film's structured, how the cast works together, I think it perfectly cast and perfectly worked into the film. But is there anything that you've changed?
2 things.
Oh,
two things. Yeah. First one, more cowbell. The score needs more cowbell. And the second thing is, you can never have enough Roddy McDowall.
That is true. Yeah, I was going to say that I always, as a kid, not always as a kid, but as a kid, I can remember seeing Christopher Walken. I can't remember what film it was, and when for a second, when I watched Ghostbusters again, I thought for a second, that's Gozer. So could you imagine? Can you imagine the director's cut?
Yeah.
100% more threatening straight away.
Yeah, straight away. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. No, I have to say those things because I can't, honestly, honest hand on heart, I can't think of a single thing I'd want to change about that movie.
No, no. I will say that maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I showed this film to a friend, And the friend's probably like 10 years younger than myself, so I thought it was perfect, right? Into film, but not massively, so I thought it's perfect to kind of like show him this film that everybody talks about, everybody's quotes.
Yeah.
It's become iconic. If now went and said, I don't know, I mean, you had a conversation. I said to you, "Are you going to call?" Like literally, you picked up your phone.
Yeah.
You would first thing you think is Ghostbusters. That
Yeah.
phrase is people say that phrase is ruined. It's not ruined.
No,
It's it's amazing. But that's what I mean. It's been so ingrained into our popular culture.
yeah.
So I showed this film, and where I was giggling, laughing, smirking, or
Yeah.
appreciating every bit of dialogue, this person was just I just don't understand why everybody likes this film apart from the theme
Really.
song. And I was like, yeah. And he questioned the special effects. Now it took him out of the film. But I think that's a bit cheap because, as you know, I think you can every film can be like looking back at like Lord of the Rings and Andy Serkis's work and stuff.
Yeah.
Gollum, the acting's still superb, but there is times now where what's amazing to me about CGI, maybe it's just me, is that you don't realize it. It's not like you watch it again and you think, oh, it's because you watch other films and then you notice not at the time, but when you go back and rewatch,
Yeah.
like you'll see Gollum and you'll think, oh, actually, yeah, he looks it's movie, it's fantastic, but we've seen things now that look more like the shadowing and the texturing's better. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
so. Does that mean we go back and say, oh, what a great trilogy that is? By the way, though, we need to redo Gollum. it's
Let's George it. Let's,
yeah,
but you see, the
yeah,
thing is, I think because I watched them both very recently, and I was sort of almost re-impressed, if you can say can you be
yeah.
re-impressed?
I
So
I think that should be a T-shirt for us.
yeah,
Re-impress should be a T-shirt for us. Yeah,
they should, yeah. But it was the line
little
bit. It was just
Ghostbusters logo.
yeah. When she's floating, when she's sort of free form floating, and she's
Incredible.
reading, she's reading. It's the light change. It's the stuff, she's got her hair's blowing back, and it's a very
Yeah,
subtle, a little different light, purple to blue. I think purple, blue, red, sort of
yeah,
just flicking between the two. While she's also phasing in and out,
yeah.
you know, and it's such a subtle but lovely effect. And I think stuff like that. That's practical. Will always be better. It'll, you can scale stuff. I mean, you get towards the end, and you're doing Stay or something like Stay Puft, and see they go down the whole you know Godzilla route, man in suit, sort of stomping on a fake
Yeah.
city. But the work that went into it, the scaling work is brilliant, and it
I,
blends really well.
I even now, like we can all look and think of the dogs.
Mm,
I think you can look at it and go. I mean, from like a technical point of view, like when the dog's in the cloakroom and he throws the coat
yes,
over its head, the dog it can't move. How it's obviously the animatronics work and stuff, or
yeah,
lack of like mobility for it. So we know that because if it was CGI, it would be moving around maybe in there by today's standards. But
yeah,
and when it jumps out, we can see how it's stop motion is
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah. But it's part of the charm.
Mm,
It's part of how films were made. So like I was thinking about when that friend went back to go back to what I was saying about when he was watching the film. He was saying, "Well, that just takes all the threat out of it for me." I was like, "Well, not really. Like the introduction when they're on, I believe the introduction of them is when the gargoyles like break open and its foot and
yeah,
its eye are there, and then the
yeah,
scene we mentioned earlier where its arm shoots out of the
yeah.
sofa and then covers her mouth. Like so, the threat's already established for me.
Mm,
The first few initial times you see that, it just works so perfectly. But compare that where we can all see that obviously it's a dated effect. Doesn't mean I want to change it. It's just dated, like everything
yeah.
it
Oh,
happens.
yeah. No,
That's the only part of the film that is dated to me.
mm,
Some of the effects works, but then you look at the Stay Puft at the end, and incredible to me. I'm still like you said, re-impressed. So we're going to use that's
yeah.
I like that.
That's
So
definitely, yeah,
I'm every time I watch it, I'm re-impressed with that
yeah.
effect.
You see that
It's
again with scenes before. the whole Slimer sequence in the hotel.
Yeah.
At this, sort of their first sort of official call, and the way they go about it's that they're going in, suited up, with the proton packs on. It's the it's the stuff like when they're waiting for the lift or for American Friends elevator, um, and it's that guy's sort of like, well, what are you supposed to be? It's like some kind of exterminator. Um, so yeah, roaches, man. There must be some kind of big roaches. Bite your head off.
I get it. Yeah.
And
Natural, witty interactions between
yeah,
characters. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, it's so, and it's clean. There's no sort of like they're not thinking about it. It's straight out of the mouths, and it's sarcasm at its best. But when you get that information that they've never field tested their equipment,
Yeah.
and it's like, I can't remember what the exact words, but they said something like each of us wearing an untested or unlicensed nuclear accelerator on the back. It's the way the little motorcycle they turn it on and they back away and they're not really confined space. I just think, it's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get,
It's very natural, logical.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
perfect. Well, you made a good point then about none of the characters are waiting to make jokes. That goes back again to where I fail to describe it as a comedy, because like how many times do you see a film where somebody's waiting to deliver a gag, and it's almost sometimes like they leave space for a laugh or for the
yes,
audience to laugh so they don't miss any dialogue. But it's nothing like that. Like when I watch a film, I can find Ghostbusters hilarious and not laugh out loud once. You get that, just that get kind of like little grin that starts to come across your
yeah,
face.
yeah,
I think that's funny. That's brilliant. That is so clever. I love that. Do you know what I mean? And that's almost better, because sometimes you can watch a lot of even good comedy films and you almost laugh yourself out. And because you've
yeah,
laughed and it's ingrained in your mind, you're like, right, okay, next time you watch it, you'll still enjoy it, but you'll be like, okay, it won't be that same reaction. But because it's like you said, everything's understated,
yes,
everything's like
yeah,
logical and feels like how people would interact.
mm,
I don't know whether that's just me, but I find comedy like that doesn't it just doesn't like burn out.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
stays with you, and you like. I mean, I know obviously the film's so quotable. It's probably one of the most quotable films ever made. It's ridiculous, but it's not. You just don't get that with a lot of other films where we get these like giant set pieces where let's have a big laugh here, let's someone get his ball stuck in a zip. Oh, that's brilliant. But next time you see it,
yeah,
that shock factor's gone out of it, and you've
mm,
laughed so much you've seen it. Like, can your brain really replicate seeing that for the first time? It's
yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
witty dialogue and stuff is enjoyable. It's quick.
So
It's natural.
yeah, that's part of my favourite moments of Ghostbusters. Is stuff like really early on when they're going into the library and Ray goes, "Shh, you smell something?" Yeah,
Yeah,
um, and
brilliant.
and said this before. The character moments when um, they're talking about crossing the streams at the end,
Yeah,
um, and they're sort of saying, "Well, we're told not to, but if we do, then this will happen. ABC will happen, and it's either going to save the world or it's going to kill us all."
yeah.
And then Pete, Venkman just slaps Ray.
Across the face.
Yeah, it's like, I love this
Yeah,
slap. And it's just those lovely, those standout moments. You can have as much spectacle as you want in that film. Again, it comes back down to character, and that's
absolutely.
you know, um,
And can
and
I
it,
just say
hmm,
on that, like, you imagine a film where, like, I know obviously nowadays we have anti-heroes and things like that, but can you imagine a film that, like, as somebody like Bill Murray in that lead where he's such a dickhead, like where he's like
it's
he's not heroic, he's
no,
so
not at all.
selfish. Like I know that you mentioned that, but like, can you just imagine that? Like somebody pitching that now to today?
Well, it's you think about Venkman as well, and he's unstable. His first proper interaction, his one-to-one interaction with Dana
Yeah,
when he first goes to her apartment, he's nosy, he's rude,
yeah.
um, you know, and then he just turns around and says, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go for broke here. I love you. We love
I know,
it.
yeah, it's just
It's
like,
just
yeah,
like, oh my god. But then it's that bit where she goes, no, basically tells him to fuck off, but he says, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to prove myself to you. And it sort of comes out of nowhere, and it makes you. He's like, is that coming just because he wants to get in her pants, or is Venkman? Is there like more layers to it where Venkman's quite lonely, so he's looking for something, or is he just a jerk? Is he an arrogant arsehole who's just wants to get laid? Just, but
Yeah, exactly. Who would now consider that to be maybe a worthy character from like a ridiculous summer blockbuster? The
yeah,
original one of that film as well. Like we're not talking about like for instance, like Avengers, where Thor's now an overweight god that's sulking or brooding or upset
yeah,
or depressed because of some of his friends died. We're talking about the first film.
yeah. Well, that's it. Venkman doesn't grow as a person over that first film. Um, he is who he is, and I think you could probably ask. I guess if you asked, a broad spectrum of Ghostbusters fans, I can imagine if you asked them who their favourite character was, I'd I'd argue 80% would say Venkman,
Oh yeah,
if not
easily.
higher. Um,
So
um,
do you have one?
what favourite?
Yeah,
Venkman, easily.
Venkman. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I really struggle because I always would say Venkman is
Mm,
fantastic. He's hilarious, and Bill Murray is a genius, which I think everybody knows that. But I also think of like how could I like go against Harold Ramis, who's unbelievably understated. We talk about the film and dialogue being understated, but
yeah.
then like Dan Aykroyd, who's so enthusiastic, and is
Mm,
the speech he gives to the villain, to Gozer, when he gives the speech about returning to whatever dimension it is
yeah.
forthwith and immediately. And to me, that is such a like that is Dan Aykroyd. That is he wrote the film.
Yeah.
I know obviously Harold Ramis helped him a lot with rewrites and things like that, but like it's just his passion for the film you can see in the script and his acting and his character.
Yeah.
It's like they just said to him, "Don't write yourself a character. Just pretend you're a Ghostbuster, Dan."
But he likes all that stuff anyway, doesn't he? He's sort of into all the
Yeah,
cool stuff, personally.
yeah. Did you ever see him on his appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast? He was unbelievable. He's so
Yeah.
interesting. And every time Joe would like bring up a story or ask him, Dan Aykroyd had heard the story. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable. He could come out with facts and details. And the one thing I really liked about him was I believe in this stuff, but I don't blindly believe in it. So if you tell me something or challenge me, I will listen and then go back out and test that. And I think that's fantastic. And do you
Yeah.
think that maybe is part of why his script worked as well so much? Because if he's kind of like that now, is that like his collaborative work where he's written this big script that was supposed to feature him and John Belushi and
Yeah.
then Eddie Murphy,
Mm,
and it was supposed to be like a franchise all over the
yeah.
world and a big doomsday kind of apocalypse scenario, which Harold Ramis came on board and was like, let's scale it back and
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
more relatable to people and a budget where we can actually make the film. So again, maybe I'm not saying maybe he is, but like it does feel that it is almost an extension of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think when you're invested in something personally,
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to write than having to go away and you research hours and hours on end if you've got no personal sort of stock in that. If that makes sense.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Um, but his highest grossing film of '84, was it?
What's that? Oh, yeah. Was it the? I'm inclined to say yes. I'm positive, and just from without like going and checking that, I would like just from like the music video. Like how
Oh,
could it not be? Everybody knew what it was.
mm,
Have you seen the original music video where they've got people like Chevy Chase and other celebrities
yes. Yeah.
singing towards the end? Like I just like now thinking, what other film came out in '84 that could possibly rival that? Like it's a summer blockbuster. It was at the time. Do you know what I mean? It like covered horror, comedy. It got so much money invested into it for promotional
Mm,
purposes. So music video, the song. Even when like we're talking about watching the cartoon, like we
yeah.
knew that. Like, did you ever request it to be played at school disco? I can
Oh,
remember
it
doing
was
that. And I
on
can remember me and my
every
mates doing, yeah, me and my
every
mates doing the
Halloween.
like walk.
That's it. Yeah, the walk. Yeah, definitely. And every Halloween disco, or every radio stations play it all the time. It's on every Halloween compilation album.
Yeah.
It's again, like you say, it's ingrained in the public's consciousness. It's iconic.
Yeah.
It's such a good film. And go back to your question about my question about what would you say to someone who'd never seen it? How would you explain
What it
about it?
is.
Yeah, I'd just say get it watched because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My question would be, why have you not watched this?
Yeah. Oh, bless you. Oh, great stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's again, it it'll always be it'll remain iconic. It's one of those things. I think obviously with what's coming, we're going to talk about a little bit later on. What should have been released, I think, by now or the next month. I think, but due to the lockdown, Afterlife coming out. Sort of, I think it's been pushed towards the end of the year, or is it next year now?
I think it's next year now.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll probably go off this and find out it's not. But then again, it could change. I
Yeah.
suppose.
But
Yeah.
that, again, there's been a big resurgence and interest in it. But we'll get onto that later. I just want to sort of move
Yeah.
on to, if you're happy to, Ghostbusters
Yep.
2, 1989. I think would have been the highest grossing film of '89 if it wasn't for Batman.
Yes.
Which I think I'm right on that one.
Yes, I think you are.
Ghostbusters 2. Now, before we get into everything, the one thing that sticks out is after the film came out, because obviously not as well received as the first movie. A lot of people felt it was missing a few bits and pieces. Bill Murray had a big issue with it, saying that he didn't really want to go back and repeat his success or repeat. He didn't feel like they could. I think you said once, capturing lightning in a bottle, you can't do it twice. I think what I've read somewhere, or it might have been in an interview or something, that Dan Aykroyd said he was given, Sony gave him, or Sony Columbia, well, Columbia at the time, he gave them a long list of wants for effects for set pieces in the film and asked him to write a script around it. Which
it's not
straight
surprising, is
away,
it?
straight away causes an issue with the writing. It sort of ties your hands creatively.
Yeah.
However, I would say that, in my personal opinion, Ghostbusters 2 stands up on its own extremely well.
Mm.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I'd agree. Because I think, the tone is drastically different, and you saying that, I'd not actually heard that. I've heard so much about Ghostbusters 2, so much that was cut out of it, so much that's been chopped up, left on the cutting room floor, but I'd not actually heard that. Excuse me, my original I don't know, idea of what Ghostbusters 2 was that I believe all of the cast and crew got together and kept talking about wanting to do a film again, but not a sequel because of Bill Murray. And then they just had such a good time. They were like, you know what, let's just make a sequel. And I think he eased his stance a little bit. So with you saying there's a list of demands that's been given to him by the studio, do you think they came from the fact that the television show, what obviously that we saw as kids, the Real Ghostbusters, because obviously we now see characters like Janine now look like their cartoon counterparts, don't they? Yeah. So that really doesn't surprise me, and it almost feels like there are some retreads around there, which I suppose is pretty normal for a lot of sequels, where let's kind of redo what the first one did. Let's feed the audience what they enjoyed because they enjoyed it. So why can't they enjoy it again and paying for it again? But let's just dress it up and decorate it differently. But to me, even though that still exists in the film, I feel the film is, again, its dialogue's fantastic.
Yeah.
The cast are, again, fantastic. There's probably a couple of things I would change myself. Whereas the first one, like you, there's nothing I could even think about. But I do genuinely, I'm baffled by people that say that the second one's a terrible film.
Yeah.
I've seen a few videos over the last few months that have popped up online, like how they do Ghostbusters 2 differently, or why Ghostbusters 2 is terrible, and
Yeah.
just and to me, I don't know how you can call a film terrible that, like, even though it is a bit of a retread, and even though it's not as good as the first one, I mean, we're talking, like you said, lightning in the bottle. We're talking about one of the like most iconic films in cinema.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
so how's it ever going to be as good as the first one? Like, the thing is, it's a continuation of these characters to me, and you've got, yes, the tone is a little bit more lighter. Yes, what I really liked about the first one, it kept saying like for working men. You'd have, if I'm right, Dan Aykroyd smoked in the film.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a bit of swearing, whereas in this one, it's like nobody really smokes. The color palette's a little bit lighter.
Hmm.
But like I think about like the villain is incredibly creepy.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Still some set pieces like with when the Peter McNichol's character, is it Janosch,
Yeah. Yeah.
the creator of the gallery in the museum?
Yes. Yeah.
There's like a couple of scenes with him that's quite creepy. I can remember as a
Oh.
kid because I went to
Good.
watch the film. I don't know about you. I went to the cinema as a kid. My dad took me and my sister to the big. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a big cinema in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And I can remember going to see the film, and there was a couple of scenes again, I believe, where he's. It sounds ridiculous, but he's a flying nanny.
Well, there's the bit in the corridor with
That's the
the
second
high beam
thing.
lights. Oh my god, yeah, that was
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And then the painting itself is
and it was
incredible.
just really
Like,
nice effects work on that. Just the pushing of the forehead moving out initially,
yeah.
and elements like that. It was it
What about the dark room when they're doing take the photos and they're
was
like
great.
they start to come out and they're all like warped
Yeah,
and weird and yeah,
it was the fact as well that the whole sort of mood slime thing. Um,
yeah,
it's the first time that um, when they're covered in it after they sort of dropped in the river of slime and they come out and they're arguing. It's the
yeah,
first time we've seen they being dicks to each other.
yeah,
It's only fleeting, but it's nice to see that other side of them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
but Venkman's a lot more removed. I don't know whether that's intentional. But obviously, he's got his TV show. Where it
Yeah,
starts off. We have the five
that's
years later.
genius. Yeah, it's
Yeah, and
genius.
Ray and Winston are still Ghostbusters but doing kids parties because of what happened to New York. They're to blame for it, and
Yeah,
they're not allowed. They're not licensed anymore.
yeah,
Ray's got his little local bookshop
yeah,
as well as doing the birthday parties. Egon's doing what probably the class is proper science, proper psychology, um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and Venkman has become almost the game show host. What Dana referred to him.
Tim
You're
has,
not a
yeah,
scientist, you're more of a game show host. Uh, but they all seem to be right where you'd expect them to be if they weren't successful.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that is a true continuation. I think a true representation of them as characters is the Egon staying in science, Ray continuing with his cool stuff, Winston just doing whatever pays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
And
working
Venkman,
man, yeah, definitely.
yeah, Venkman continuing to being a bit of a dick to people.
Yeah. But there's two things there. There's the I really like the idea that it's yes, there are retreads, and we can look at scenes and go that yeah, that's very similar to the first one. We've
Yeah.
kind of tried to include a scene like that, but it's better than maybe what you'd have got at the time from some other franchise or some other
Oh yeah,
film where
easily.
it'd be like Ghostbusters 2, I don't know, Zul Boogaloo, or that's what it feels like. Could be Gozer Returns, or
Hmm.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that part of it which I really do think it's you know they have to be commended for because they could have just gone right. It's the end of the world again. Let's have another bunch of ghosts. Let's just throw the same kind of thing around.
Hmm.
So it isn't, and I like how it nicely ties into like you said, they're all failures.
Yeah.
In well, like put someone like Egon's maybe not, but like from what they were saving the city and maybe the world to just going about day to day their regular business. But it ties into like Egon's works. I'm sure there's like a line where where he's talking and to Sigourney Weaver, to Dana, and he mentioned something about let's see what happens when we take the puppy away. So he's doing like you talk about mood slam, but he's testing on people's reactions, happy and sad and things like that. So I do like the fact that they do play into that with the main, obviously the main story of Vigo and the slime and stuff like that, and where they all are at a bad point and then like come up again to a good point. I mean, I know there's not as many iconic things in the film, but I mean, as a kid, the scene that stood out to me was the courtroom scene when the judge is,
brothers.
Yeah, when the judge is shouting and they all just decide to hide under the under like the little desk table things. Yeah. To me, that was always like that's the film starting now. But there is I think that going to the thing that I would change, thinking about like iconic moments and stuff, is that were you ever convinced that four guys that saved the world and had proof and a massive crowd of people that saved the world would then be broke and stiffed with a bill by the city? That's the only part of the film that frustrated me a little bit now when I see it, because it's like such a shame. But then I think that with some explanation, I could get that, and I'd believe that some maybe corrupt officials would stiff them with a bill.
Well, it comes down to what the mayor says. When the mayor says, about being miserable, and it's every New Yorker's God-given right, basically to treat other New Yorkers like shit. And I think that's probably where it came from, is that, you've got, and I think to end the first one on Winston saying, I love this town, to start in the next one and them all being completely shafted by that town that they declare they love by. Yeah, it's a nice contrast. But I would say, there are elements like, at the end of in the first one, up to the 11th hour, they're arrested. And towards the 11th hour of the second one, they're committed. It's that same sort of.
You get the asshole Peck, and then you got the asshole mayor's assistant. So.
What I did notice about, like you said, about sort of maybe keeping in tone with the cartoon series, is that you get more Slimer, and whereas Slimer's more in the first one. They're chasing around the hotel to begin with. He's contained. He escapes, along with all the other ghosts. You get a little tease at the end when it comes out of the subway. And that's the final shot of the final shot of the first one during the credits into it. And then obviously it's become almost like the living ghost, which in the animated series he was, they kept him around, and so that's sort of stuck along. But what I will say, the big difference is the soundtrack, because it felt like Ghostbusters 2, even though you've got the Ghostbusters theme song, it felt like they'd actually got their own theme in the actual score in Ghostbusters 2, and you haven't got this sort of drawn out violin strings or anything. You've got that. It's very more sort of like a heroic, almost superhero sort of bit of music, but it's a nice little uplifting beat. But the set pieces, going like you're saying about the set pieces, not so as much memorable dialogue in Ghostbusters 2, but I would argue that growing up, probably because it was more tailored towards kids, because of the success of the animated show, I found myself I could enjoy it probably more. I probably saw it more than what I did the first one.
I'd agree with that 100%. Yeah,
but because of that film, Jackie Wilson. I know they don't use the Jackie Wilson version of Higher and Higher when they do the
Statue of Liberty
theme. Yeah, it's one of my favourite songs, and it makes me smile whenever it comes on. It makes me smile. It's just one of the great sequences. It's so over the top, but you accept it because Staples Marshmallows and Staples. No, put your teeth back in.
The Marshmallow Man exists.
Marshmallow Man, and you accept that. So but again, like I said, Vigo, I think it's a strong villain. sorry, I can't remember the actor's name.
No,
But
he was in the Mouth of Madness, weren't he? I believe.
yes, and, I think Die
Yeah,
Hard. I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
that's right.
But
Yeah, no,
for now,
yeah.
yeah, we'll call him Borussia Dortmund for now. Um, and he was, but yeah, Max von Sydow did an uncredited voiceover for
Yes.
him. Because I didn't know that for years
No,
growing
I
up.
didn't do that for
Um,
years. No, not at all.
and then he was finally officially credited in the game, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's right.
Um, yeah, so but yeah, for me, there's so much like there's a Happy New Year,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think it stands up. I don't think it's as good as the first one, but I would still rate it. I think those two together, just the great pieces of cinema.
And I would say that's maybe where you've just probably hit the nail on the head with me there, where it's resonated, where you've said that like the court scene where it's like two in a box ready to go, they be fast, or sorry,
It'd be
we
slow.
be fast and they be slow. Yeah, to me that's what I was saying earlier about it's almost how that's paced and that's written so that people remember that, so people can repeat that at
Yeah,
the playground, or make, whereas the original one to me was just a film where we're going to make a film that we really like, what Dan Aykroyd's
yeah,
made is really interesting. We really like this. We're going to make the film, and we'll find it. If it finds an audience, it finds an audience. Whereas the second one, like you said, I don't think it's like a children's film, which obviously we know that. But like you said, it is more like family orientated, and it's
yeah.
just like where the first one would maybe. Then I say that, and then you look at the subway scene with the heads on pikes.
Winston. Um, but
Yeah,
again,
absolutely. So
well, like you said, the one thing I always remember, and I say it now, if someone talks about musical scale, do, re, egon.
Egon. Yeah, yeah. So I just feel like maybe we don't remember those as much, and because they do feel more that they are written in a more traditional way, so that you
Mm,
clearly like can take on board. It's not like you say, it's not two characters riffing or two characters just interacting, and as soon as the kind of line comes out, the next person's talking. It's like there's almost like it's set up there not for like a
yeah,
sitcom laugh, but it is intentionally written to be memorable.
yeah,
Whereas the first one just felt so natural. So maybe because, like, as adults, because I'm the same as you, I always remember the second film when I was growing up,
mm,
and talking about like as a kid, like whether the film, whether it's centered for kids more, whether it's more family orientated than the first one, you still have those moments, like we said, the subway part when I
yeah,
can remember being a kid and watching it. It was really nervous for Ray every time I watched it when he goes down and that like hand comes out the slime, grabs his foot, pulls him. I can remember my sister being freaked out by that. So there is, like you said, the headlight eyes.
yeah. Bathtub,
So there's certain stuff. Yeah, the bathtub. Yeah, that's
bathtub.
one. Yeah,
Shit me up. I mean, it was the same thing from a little, and you think, like, so being a young age, and then someone. I think the problem is, um, these things sit in your head. So pink slime coming out of a tap, and then the bathtub tries
yeah,
to eat the baby. And if you happen to be, uh, I'd have been 5 when it came
yeah,
out. So by the time it was coming on TV, I'd be at 6 or 7, probably.
yeah.
Um, and if anyone used pink bubble bath lotion
Oh
and starts
wow.
pouring it into the bath, fuck off! I'm not bathing for a week, mate.
Well, it's really. I mean, obviously, we know as children, like our imagination runs wild. But I can't imagine. Number one, I can't imagine using pink bubble bath, even though I just can't imagine
I still use it
anyone
now.
being cruel. No, I mean, I can't imagine anyone being cruel enough to like let me use that. And after watching the film, oh, bless you. But I do remember watching Jaws 4 and thinking to myself, it must have been like 10, 11, and going, I'm not going in the bath. I'm not going to the toilet. I'm not going in the bath. And then I can remember going to the toilet, stood away from the bath, keep looking in it, and it's an empty bath. And still like creeping towards the edge of the wall and leaving, and thinking how silly that is to do that. And like you said, to how cruel it is, bless you, that you had pink bubble bath after watching that film. But then to put that in and still think to yourself, I've seen where it's come out of. The bath's not moving; it's just pink bubble bath. Oh, it's hilarious. So maybe we are a little bit harsh on it, where we're going, oh, it is family friendly, or it is more like of a smooth edge. So, a few more people can enjoy that. It's not quite as scary in certain scenes. But actually, as a kid, does it really matter if it's scary? Because we had Ed on spikes, we had eating bathtubs, hungry bathtubs, sorry, trying to eat babies, like you said. And then we've got Ed light eyes. So does that really matter compared to the first one? We're not going to, as children, you're not going to go, well, it's not as bad as a dog coming out of the sofa, is it?
That's it. It's not as bad as that shark's going to get me while I'm on the shitter.
I know. I still remember. I remember that vividly. Like thinking to myself, like my subconscious was telling me at like 10, 11 years old, what a dickhead! Like a shark can't fit in a bath. Where is it coming from? But do you know what I mean? It's not like Jaws 4's a bloody horror film, is it, or anything? But it's it would be scary if it was Michael Caine in the bath.
Scary for some. That's a fantasy for others.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's I do just think it is unfairly treated, and I do get that there can be. With the first one, I like when people criticise the film, it just shocks me because obviously there's no such thing as a perfect film. I get that. Like there's nothing like if they had unlimited amount of funds, they could have maybe done maybe wanted to do a few more scenes or touch up a few certain things. Yeah. But I cannot see where anybody would give it any constructive criticism. I can't. Maybe that's me being blind. Maybe I know that there was a little bit of a backlash for Peter, weren't there? People saying, "How can you have Venkman as a main character? He's not a particularly nice guy or anything." Well, that's the point. He's not a nasty guy. He's just selfish. Yeah. And by the end of the second film, he's been worn down a little bit, in a good way. But I just like the second one. I do get the criticisms. I do get it. But to me, it stands above the criticisms. It takes the punches and still stands after.
Yeah.
To me, it's a sign of a film you can really enjoy. Whereas I just don't get how people can expect it to be of the same quality. You don't often get two films that are incredible. We're not talking about like a big like Star Wars, for instance. We're not talking about something that has an old world, like an old galaxy of opportunities for storytelling. We're talking about four guys that bust ghosts or exterminate ghosts in a comedy horror setting. There's not. We've already experienced that. We've already seen all the big special effects. So for me, I do feel the film is treated really harshly. It's not often reviewed or treated on its own merits. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I feel anyway. I believe it's much better than its press.
Absolutely. No, I think you're spot on, mate. I think absolutely. I think you hit nail on the head. I think it's a very, very underrated movie in a lot of circles. I think people who love Ghostbusters love it anyway. It does feel. There's a lot worse films out there. There's a lot worse sequels out there. There's a lot just really shitty films out there, and Ghostbusters 2 just isn't one of them.
No, definitely not.
And those who don't agree with me, they can fight me.
Yeah. I would like to see that actually.
Yeah.
But what I mean by like to see that is I think there's obviously got to be some kind of pink bubble bath. Bath fight, not in a sponge bathy erotic way, more of a manly Oliver Reed kind of way.
really, okay. I'm down for it. If someone wants to fill a bathtub full of pink ooze and fight me in it over the fate of Ghostbusters 2, I'm down for it. Yeah. While we're on,
he'll defend its honour to the end.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm sort of erotically charged slime fights. Shall we talk about the animated series?
What a segue. Yeah. Shall I tell you what about the animated series? I remember getting, please tell me if I'm wrong, books. Were they like little books that you could get about each episode? Yeah. I'm sure that I had.
There was,
one about Murray the Mantis. I remember that. And the episode that was like Rosebud, that was like the ghost on the... Yeah, I remember that. I had books for that. My biggest thing I remember is that it never treated you like an idiot. It was always really funny, obviously. But some of the like music and like some of the ghosts were actually genuinely creepy and
They were
scary.
designs of the ghosts were weird. And I had some Ghostbusters annuals. I had like 1989, 1990 Real Ghostbusters annuals, and they gave a little things about certain ghosts and stuff like that. And one of them was Slimer, and the little
Yeah.
information on Slimer was that he was a guy who ate too much. He ate himself to death. So his
Wow.
ghost appeared as basically a stomach, a floating stomach. That's that's the real Ghostbusters explanation of
That's
Slimer.
quite cool.
You know,
I didn't know
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So if these ghosts happen to be representations of what these people, the personalities were, if you look at the designs
Yeah.
of some of the animated series ghosts, there must have been some really fucked up people. Just they were.
Yeah.
I remember, I do remember some being absolutely weird. They had recurring villains as well.
The
Uh,
Sandman one, the voice
oh,
was
yeah, that
as a
was
kid.
amazing.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was one where when he got everyone, and the one that sticks out because um, he got, I can't remember what it was, but the one that sticks in it's Janine's that they're all floating asleep, and
Yeah.
he's like trying to put Janine properly to sleep, and she's going like, I wanna. He's like getting it. I'd say what a dream is or something like that. I don't know. And she says, I want to be a Ghostbuster, and she stands up. She wakes up and she
I
traps him. I
remember
think
that.
she does it by
Yeah.
herself. And I thought so good, such a nice little moment from Janine. Um,
Yeah.
but what I remember is the very first episode. They're in the um, uniform. It's set directly after that. They've just left.
They're in their
Uh,
uniforms for the film, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and
Yeah.
they go home. Well, they go back to the firehouse, take the uniforms off. They put the new ones on, which were all
Yeah.
uh, the multicolored ones, um, and the ectoplasmic residue from their uniforms that they just used to fight Gozer. You know what they're wearing when they were fighting Gozer,
Yeah.
become evil doppelgangers.
I
Um,
remember that. Yeah, I do
yeah, and
remember
that
that
was
now. Yeah.
such a nice idea that it left straight on the the first one things. And I think the cartoon series. 86 it started 1986 is when it appeared. It ran, so I'm just checking here, 140 episodes,
That's
finished in
incredible.
1991.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's a long running
Yeah.
cartoon series. um, and yeah, and again that was tea time on a weekday, getting from school, have something to eat, bang,
What's
yeah,
that? Yeah.
Ghostbusters, yeah. And it had that, like you said, the awesome introduction of your theme tune, all the weird monsters. You had the staple from Marshmallow and do that sort of big stomping walk, and then you had the ghost from the insignia, sort of like
Yeah.
walking around bins.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like a
Um,
ghost number one warriors walking around a bin rather than floating
yeah,
through
walking
it.
through it. Yeah. But I do remember that they had to call it the Real Ghostbusters because Filmation, who did the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, already
Yeah.
had a cartoon series out
Oh, I
called
see. Yeah.
The Ghostbusters, which was a sequel to a TV series that came out in '75.
Yeah,
Um,
and that had a gorilla was part
it
of the
did,
ghostbusting
yeah.
team. Yeah,
That's
and
it.
I forgot Larry Storch is the actor.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
but yeah,
that's it had the real. Just they had to include the real thing, so they didn't get into any bother. Um,
yeah,
But obviously the toys, and I had Ecto One, and I think I had Ecto Two, which was a gyrocopter. Um,
yeah.
and the toys were spoken out before. But what I'd liked as well was I think 1997 we got the sequel series in Extreme Ghostbusters.
We did. Yeah, we did. Did you get to see much of that?
I saw, I think probably saw. I think there were only 40 episodes. It only ran from like half a year. But I remember the
Yeah.
finale where Janine, it was Egon's birthday, because obviously it
Oh yeah.
started off that they'd all gone their separate ways again. And
Yeah.
Egon was teaching parapsychology at college. He only had 4 students. Threat happened. They all teamed up. Um, and yeah, then it was Egon's birthday. So they got the crew back together. And the original Ghostbusters seemed to be a little bit jealous that Egon had got this new team, but then there was a massive threat, worldwide threat, so they all joined forces, which is what I'd always naturally assume a third Ghostbusters film would have been. Passing
I
the
think
torch.
everybody would assume that as well.
Yeah, it would be this. So you've got this new crew, and then they'd come in and say, saving the day, saving the day, and that again, I think that comes back, and we'll talk about this on another podcast. But I think that was part of the issue with Force Awakens, the new Star Wars trilogy, that we wanted those characters back on screen together to fight the good fight. And I think we were both waiting for when Luke Anakin's lightsaber comes out of the snow and races past Kylo Ren. I think both me and you and the cinema were expecting that to be Luke who caught it. Yeah. So I'm hoping that I think as a fan, I'd love to see in whatever capacity. I'd love to see that obviously poor old Hal Ramis isn't with us anymore, but I'd love to see the remaining three suit up again. But yeah, so I think I enjoyed that last episode. It was nice seeing them all together in that sort of, try to keep them in that same animation style as
before,
as Real Ghostbusters. I was sort of moving on to Ghostbusters 3. And how it had a very, very long period in development hell, where I think a few scripts were about, and every now and then Dan Aykroyd, because he always wanted to push forward, Dan Aykroyd would say, yes, I've got something. They're literally going to go to hell in this one, and they can have.
Was it Hellbound or something?
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Manhattan,
Was it Manhelton or?
Yes, and they had like the devil that was kind of a charismatic game show host and kind of I never really liked the idea of that to me because it flies in a little bit of the face of what how the other two are quite based and grounded in reality. So I that when people were like, I'd love to have seen that version of the film. I'm not so sure myself whether that idea would have really worked. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm fascinated to see it, but I don't know if it'd work.
I think like you said, I think it pushed things. It's already got its fantasy element to it anyway, but I think it just, you can suspend your disbelief so far.
Yeah, of course.
Without it being tipped over the edge, and I think literally taking the Ghostbusters to hell would have been a step too far. No doubt, probably loved it for nostalgia reasons and just seeing all the guys back together again. That and I'm sure it would have been successful at the time. But yeah, it's Dan Aykroyd was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I think that the big stopping gap for any development Ghostbusters is it Bill Murray's contract. Doesn't he have something written somewhere that he has to have a say in what they do with the property? Is that right?
That's what I've read. Yeah. Because I believe there's also something in his contract that he has to appear if there is a Ghostbusters. Now, I'm not entirely sure the ins and outs, but I'm sure the Sony leak of emails. Was it 2011? They had a big leak of emails and things. And a lot came out with the 2016 Ghostbusters. That was there was a lot of, obviously I don't want to get too much into, but there was a lot of like emails, and they were like saying, almost insinuating that they'd be taking Bill Murray to court if he basically didn't agree to cameo. And there were, because even leading up to then, there was still like everyone thought that this film in 2016 or 2015, 14, depending on when it would have been made, if it was Dan Aykroyd and the team, was still going to be another like sequel with Dan Aykroyd and the team.
I thought, well, from what all the rumors going around at the time was that Murray would appear if he died in the first frame, and he was a ghost throughout the rest of it, so he didn't have to sort of work. Essentially, he could sort of do everything green screen. That was one of the big things I heard. The other was that it was going to be Oscar was grown up. It was going to be a passing the torch film, and they were going to have like your Apatow crew being Ghostbusters, like Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd and and everyone, and then that sort of moved on to Ghostbusters 2016, which I haven't seen, and it's not because I'm pig-headed and I'm all like, well, I'm never going to watch that. It's just there's been opportunities to watch it, but I've always found something. I'd much rather go back and watch the others. I think I've heard, and maybe I should go and make my own mind up about it. But I would have much rather, when they announced it straight off the bat, them say it wasn't a reboot or a remake or a reimagining, whatever term they gave to it. I would have much rather it been in a different city, a new story where they had bought the franchise rights, which is what Peter said in the first one. The franchise rights alone are going to make us millions. I think it should have been Chicago, LA, or whatever. They've bought the franchise, different story, and it's set in the same universe. So then, if you didn't like it, you just discount it. If you loved it, then you could do other films, Ghostbusters Incorporated or whatever. But I know you've seen it, and so what's your take on it?
Well, I always thought Ghostbusters would be one of the films that would never have a remake or a reboot. It would either have a sequel. Years later, maybe with no original cast, but they would never remake it or like reboot it. So it obviously shows you what's sacred in Hollywood and what I know. So obviously massively disappointed when that news came out. When the trailer came out, I was like you, for a while I thought, well, if they're going to do another one, it's going to be Passage of the Torch. Maybe we'll have like a Will Ferrell, a Seth Rogen, a Paul Rudd stuff. And the more I thought about that, the more where I thought, well, maybe apart from Paul Rudd, maybe you couldn't make. The point is, you need probably serious actors to play that. That's what to me feels like Ghostbusters is. Like you said, it's situational. Like, for instance, I know it's a little different, but who would have thought that Jeff Daniels would have been like hilarious in Dumb and Dumber? Who'd have thought we're going to get somebody to play off Jim Carrey? I don't know, let's get Jeff Daniels. So a lot of actors, exactly. So do we need like these kind of like over the top comedic performers to Ghostbusters larger than life anyway? I feel that you can't really add to that without it detracting from the film. So when it was announced, and obviously, like you said before, it's not a gender thing, and there's been a lot spoken about that. It really is not. It's the fact that it's like, why, like, these decisions are baffling. Like, why would you tell a reboot? Because I'm sure when the first trailer came out, it kind of referenced the 4 original characters, but then there's no reference to them existing at all, and all the actors, the remaining 3 actors appear. 4 actors, because Annie Potts appears as well, but there's nothing to do or no mention of ghosts or anything. It is just literally like a reboot of the first film. So I will admit, because obviously I thought to myself, well, I just don't want to watch it. I was saying that I don't want to watch it because I felt like a lot of things, if the opportunity comes up, why did I just not watch the first one?
Yeah.
Why do I sort of want to watch the second one? And I do get you cannot judge anything until you've seen it. So I was persuaded to go along and watch it, and it was as bad as I was expecting. It's not like, speaking like Ghostbusters 2, it's not. These are Hollywood films with a lot of money behind them. We're not expecting to go there and see like, do you know what I mean, some shoddy B movie that's tucked away on television. We're talking about, just from a point of view, of something so soulless, in my opinion, of something that, like, do you ever see the film Evolution?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be like a sci-fi version of Ghostbusters for the 90s. Yeah. To me, again, it completely missed what made Ghostbusters really good. And if Ghostbusters was so easy to replicate, other people would have had a lot of success. It's not. Yeah. And that's why I think it does stand the test of time. So I went to watch the film. And the comedy is just completely different. It is like, basically, like you were saying about, it's an Apatow film. The film is crude. The film uses crude humor. I think in the trailer, I don't know if you saw it, where one of the women are possessed by a ghost, and the other woman's like slapping them, saying the power of, like, doing a riff on the power of Christ compels you from Exorcist. I mean, we're in 2016 at the point then, and we like spoof a million spoof movies have mentioned that joke. Like, I'm really struggling to talk about it because I do find nothing from the film. I lie. There is one redeeming feature of the film, and that is Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
He's it's because he gives everything. He plays
Mm.
like one of the dumbest characters you'll meet,
Yeah.
like a Joey from Friends. If you know, Joey makes him look in. Joey's made to look intelligent by comparison. But there is like a couple of really funny jokes, but they are like SNL jokes. They are set up
Yeah.
jokes, like pub jokes, which
Mm.
do not fit in. The setup, it takes so long to get into the
Yeah.
joke. The effects do not fit the style. The it's the characters are rolling around on the floor shooting like a western. They're like packs, and they
Yeah.
even have like turn them into guns and stuff. And what I liked about the original is there were four guys that carried a backpack around, that they weren't superheroes. They got things
Mm.
done, and you could relate to that as a kid because you feel
Yeah.
once you put that little pack on that you open at Christmas, you were a Ghostbuster.
Mm.
And I feel like the film just like did not understand a thing that made it. And I feel like a lot of the backlash was unwarranted by people saying, like, without going into a debate or upsetting anybody, who's not read a YouTube comment section, or who's not read like an Ain't It Cool news section back in the day, and seen people like shitting on things just for the sake
Yeah.
of it? We all know that exists,
Yeah.
right? The term that they used to say is "don't feed the trolls,"
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Now people seem to be really offended by it if it's like that film looks shit. Well, the fact is you've got a franchise that's existed since 1984 that people are really fond of. That there's
Mm.
now one of the main guys has passed away,
Yeah.
and what the emails led to believe is that as soon as they found like a way out of using Dan Aykroyd, Ivan Reitman, and that, they just kind of like dishonored like his legacy and
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
over the reds and did it a little bit sneakily. Like, I don't know. Again, I know you've not seen the film, so I'm all right to mention a few things that might.
Yeah. Go for it, mate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the last battle is a huge ghost that walks around the city, stamping on the city. It is the Ghostbusters logo. For some
Yeah.
reason, like the main villain is a nerdy guy that's don't feel great about himself, and the twist of the film is that he kills himself, not goes to kill somebody, and when he kills himself, he becomes a ghost, and he talks like, for some reason, he's now like Zor, for instance, where he can
Mm.
talk to them and make them pick a destroyer. So
Yeah.
when they think of something, they think of a ghost logo. So it literally becomes an animated logo that then comes to life and then becomes so big it starts stamping on the city. And it's just like, to me, I look at it and think the studio had to make a decision and go, we're going to give you this money.
Yeah.
And they've got to then justify, we didn't make number three because we wanted to retell number one so poorly. Like, to me, that's like, I really don't get that at all. like,
Mm.
like if you're the money man, Dan, you're the money man, right? And I'm the director, and then you sit with me and I have to justify to you why I've chosen to go this way.
Mm.
Like, I will just never, I'm not even speaking as a fan. I will just never understand. A lot of people never understand studio decisions, and I'm not saying sometimes they don't make good decisions and stuff. Like maybe with the development hell, maybe some of the scripts were pushing it too far and
Yeah.
things. But I'll never understand why, if such a successful franchise, one of the creators willing to do it,
Mm.
it would have a lot of. It would have made money alone by people just going to see buy a ticket to see the original three back together, or even
Yeah.
two, or whatever way, or
Yeah.
even letting Dan Aykroyd write everything and sort everything out.
Mm.
But I don't. To be honest, I got to the point where I don't even. I always thought it really would frustrate me because people would, like I was talking about, my friend would see Ghostbusters as that, or people would see it as this new film that's been
Yeah.
in 2016. But actually, it's probably the best thing for me. People don't even like. Still, people at Halloween, like you said, play the song and don't even talk about it anymore.
Mm.
And it's only 2020. It's only 4 years later, and people like it's like it's forgotten, which to me is
Yeah.
fantastic because it is. I mean, I will say you do need to watch it. I think you do, and it is nice to see it's nice to see Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and these actors again. But Bill Murray's got such a strange cameo.
Mm.
Such a strange cameo. It's so bizarre, like how they treat him as well in the film, and
Yeah.
it's so weird. It doesn't like anybody could have played that. They could have had like I don't know Lady Gaga do the cameo, and
Mm.
people could go, oh, at the time Lady Gaga was popular, so
Yeah.
there she is in a film of a time. It didn't have to be any of the original actors. It was never there was never a nod, a wink, or anything. So
It's a shame, is it? Because Bill Murray was utilised so well to that effect in Zombieland. Um,
absolutely, yeah,
and it sort of riffed on. obviously Ghostbusters, and they make that argument now that the kids had never seen Ghostbusters,
Yeah,
and Woody Harrelson just couldn't get his head around it.
yeah,
He just, and again, it's nice to see Murray put the pack on. Sort of like, I think was it the one of the MTV Movie Awards or Kids
yeah. He
Choice Awards
collected
or
an
something
award,
like that.
didn't he? Yeah, because
Yeah,
everyone thought
dressing.
that then maybe he'd agreed to do something, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
typical Murray just fucking with everybody. So
yeah. But I think that the disappointment with that a few years before then, I think it was just a few years before we got the video game. And also there'd been sort of like other video games, but we got the sort of next gen
yeah, they're
Ghostbusters
on
game.
the PlayStation 3 and Xbox
Yeah,
360, I believe. Yeah, yeah,
which sort of served as Dan Aykroyd's Ghostbusters 3.
yeah,
It sort of had that sort of whole greatest hits vibe to it because you thought Stay Puft and you went to the library and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
But it was written by them and it was voiced by them. And I think did they do some mocap work as well?
yeah. They did mocap work. They did. I think the only person that didn't come back was, well, obviously Rick Moranis' character wasn't in it, but I believe it was Sigourney Weaver.
Mm,
So like to get Bill Murray back
yeah,
for a video game, when
yeah,
again, I understand the fact that like it's voiceover work, he could do it maybe in a day or whatever. I get that, and he will be probably paid nicely for it. But to get him to even step foot in it, to me, means that surely at the time I was thinking, well, this means there's another one coming. This means there's another one coming.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, have you played the
yeah.
game?
I've not
Yeah,
played I know they just remastered it, haven't they? But
yeah,
I've
they
not
have.
played
Yeah,
it since they remastered it. I played it on the 360, um,
yeah,
and I loved it. And I think I loved it more because I don't know if I think differently about it now, but it was just pure nostalgia fuel. And it was like it just stoked me on all these things. Even though I'd seen Stay Puft Marshmallow Man again, before, just
yeah,
being part of that, being a rookie called rookie. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
who gets to go about. And yeah, I didn't mind that you couldn't um, change your appearance. I mean, everyone would have liked to think if you could, maybe if they did it for the remastered, maybe that'd be great. But if you could customize the rookie to look like yourself, that'd be
Yeah,
perfect. But they didn't. You just got on with it. He was Captain Generic, but it fit in.
that's a shame to me. Yeah, I think he fits in brilliantly. But like you said, if you could like then wear your glasses, put your little beard on, put your hair on, but
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Just that extra bit. It's that wish fulfillment from like taking
yeah,
you from being that child loving like your Saturday morning. I believe it was on some Saturday mornings, but your like after school cartoon to then
yeah.
your action figures to then your favorite movies. So it almost like bring it 360 degrees for me. That would have been really good. But I felt because of we know those characters so much and so well, and they're voiced like ridiculously well by
Yeah.
all of the actors. I did feel that I don't know about you, but the character did look so out of place and unfinished because he was so like Egon's got the big hair. Ray looks like Dan Aykroyd. He's got like a quiff, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah,
Bill Murray's Bill Murray, and so like by comparison, it's like he almost looked unfinished, like he had
mm,
like a crew cut and
yeah,
like was
yeah.
just so. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I do get that. I don't think it detracts away from it. I just think it would have like further added to the enjoyment for it to be in.
And I think, like most games, obviously they've got to offer upgrades and stuff like that. So you could
Yeah,
change what your proton pack did and uh, your particle thrower, or whatever they call the wand. I can't remember what they call it, but
yeah,
uh,
they're the slime tether. I remember
yeah,
um, you having to like pull platforms together when you was
mm,
in the like alternate version of the library, and you had to
yes, yeah.
refix the platforms with the slime. That was always I thought very good.
But I think I'd always go back to using sort of the standard proton pack.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think but it's like you said, it's going back to being a child and being able to throw a proton pack around and get your PKE meter and just sort of wave it around looking for.
And I love that aspect, in the hotel especially, where before you fight like the sea captain ghost, and you're walking around. It looks quite a bit of a labyrinth. I remember where like a lot of the
Yeah,
sea life, a lot of waters, like so it makes like looking down every corridor the same. So you have to get your PK meter out,
yeah,
and I felt that part of the game was really well made because at some point as well when it just jumps out at you out of a
yeah.
wall, it is actually quite. It's not scary, obviously, but it did have a few tense moments. I thought where the
Mm.
atmosphere was almost like replicated from the original, where it'd be a little bit tense,
Yes,
and you'd be
yeah.
like, "Oh, what's going to
It
go
did.
off here?" Yeah,
It captured quite a lot of that original feeling very successfully, and I suppose that makes you wonder maybe if they had given Aykroyd, and Ramus Reitman and everyone that little bit of dosh to do a Ghostbusters 3, especially after writing that game,
yeah,
then maybe we would have got something special.
yeah,
But who knows? Who knows? But what does look special? Afterlife.
yes. I don't know whether I don't know whether I am. I've watched the trailer obviously, and we see
Mm-hmm.
the kids hanging out of the car and using the proton pack. So which I know that got a little bit of online. A few people, it was really annoyed people. Some of it really loved it, but universally the trailer is loved, and
Yeah.
like myself, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not probably as hyped up as maybe you are. Maybe that's because I've been hurt by 2016. um, but also, it's maybe I feel like the less I look forward to it and the less I look out for it, the more I want to be. It's like it's the wanting to be amazed again kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
feeling. And I have no idea where they're going to take it. I think we all know that it's
Oh,
going to
no.
pay like a homage to Harold Ramis. It's going to pay its respects to him, and it looks from again, it could be completely out of left field. That could make it not about that, but it looks like that's his family that have got the farm
Yeah.
and find his equipment, and it would make sense as his granddad. He's passed away, but now, so that'd be nice. But I have no idea where it's going.
I
No
loved
idea.
that teaser trailer that they put out,
Yeah,
which was just the Ecto One. So I think was it just the tarpaulin blowing, and you just had the Elmer Bernstein theme
yeah,
sort of start, and that's all we sort of got, and that was so effective. That just such a massive slap in the face with nostalgia. That's what got me interested to begin with, and then that first trailer. I've seen a couple of variations, the international trailer and the sort of the standard trailer. Um,
yeah,
it was nice that you got that introduction to, they moved to granddad's house. The granddaughter's got Egon type glasses on, and then Paul Rudd's the teacher. Is that right? And he sort of,
he is. Yeah, yeah. He knows about it, doesn't he? He's
well,
like,
he's a
let me
fan
show you.
into,
Yeah,
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 and he's sort of goes on about like it's like 30 years ago. These guys were heroes and everything, and it sort of it it really sort of ramps up that this is the pain, they're giving it the respect it deserves, and then hearing Ecto One's sirens come on, which again it's an iconic sound in itself,
yeah,
and that comes screaming around. Whether you like the idea of the little um, sort of gunner seat, whether you like that or not, it didn't bother me too much. But seeing Ecto One race around,
no,
firing off
yeah.
proton beams and everything was just. But again, Paul Rudd, I think he could sell pretty much anything to me.
Yeah,
Um, I think he's sort of again he's very Bill Murray like. Treads that fine line. He knows what's funny. He knows how to when to not be funny.
yeah.
He's
I totally agree with that. And it
yeah
looks nice that they've not kind of again. We don't know what we don't know where it's going to go. Well, I don't. I couldn't even make a
yeah
guess for you now if you're going to say to me. But what I like about it is, when you talked about the Apatow thing, we talked about, well, we'll have the next generation, we'll have the mouthy one, will be like a replacement for the one where it'll be Paul Rudd. We'll have maybe Seth Rogen as Dan Aykroyd's character.
yeah
Maybe like obviously there'll be a bit more larger than life, but with this, it's like almost looks like it's avoided doing the cliche. It's gone
yeah
and put
definitely.
him in the film, but gone. right, okay, Paul, here you go. You're going to now be the scientist, like maybe a big supporting player, or so.
It's Ivan Reitman's son directed, isn't it?
Jason, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's nice that that's been passed on as well. That's
Yeah.
it's keeping it. It's and if and they're all rumored to come back. I believe there's only
I think I've heard that Murray's
yeah
definitely on. Yeah, because I think he did an interview
mm,
with a like an entertainment magazine, Entertainment Weekly, something like that. And I'm sure that he did like that. It was so it's almost now like it's confirmed by Murray, but it's not been officially put out there.
yeah.
So, but like he spoke about his experience and spoke about how hard it is to film with a pack on, how heavy it is at his age and stuff. So, um,
Well, let's see. That's what I'm hoping. I'd like to have that moment that we didn't get in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where
yeah,
we do get to see those surviving members brought back. It'd be lovely to see. You know, I suppose I'd always like to think after uh, Venkman and Dana, they got together in the first one, then they were separated by the time the second one came around, and they got back together. It would be nice to see those two
yeah,
still together. Because
yeah,
Venkman went through that growth that he went in the second one. He had that personal growth he didn't in the first one,
yeah,
and that came down to sort of missed opportunities and sort of her being with Oscar, having Oscar and all that, and you saw that
yeah,
different side of Venkman. So it would be nice as a continuation of their story that they're still together, and you know. But like I said, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's they've not put anything out that's spoiling anything.
no,
It's a very good trailer. Um, I say I think if it's out next year now, it's longer to wait, but if it's going to be if it has ended up being a great film, then it's going to be worth it. So and then let's see
yeah.
what moves on from there.
I'd rather wait for quality control rather than get it straight away and be disappointed
Yeah,
like 2016 or
yeah,
get it and not want it. Or because obviously I don't know when it was announced, I was like, oh, not again. Have they not learned? Have they not? Do you know what I mean? And then you see the director's going to be his son,
yeah.
Ivan Reitman's son. So you still think, well, is that just a pandering kind of to the masses?
Mm,
Like, oh look, here we go. But actually, it does look like a lot of thought's gone into the film.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
So, and I think the thing that sums up the thought of the internet for me is I'm not saying the internet is a place, it's not the jury, it's not the judge, it's not the executioner, but it is nice to see. You do get a general census, don't you? Like a bit of
yeah,
buzz whether the film gets it. And I saw two trailers for it. I saw a trailer and some guy breaking it down and excitedly, like almost squealing through out of it, which is great. But another one I saw and it like played the two trailers at the same time, and then it played the tagline, and it's like, "Are you going to call?" And then it showed a picture of the 2016 film, and it was like, "Not this shit." Right, and then it put a picture of the two kids that are in
yeah.
the guy from Stranger Things. I always forget his name.
Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah, what a name. Yeah, and the girl as well. So you see them two at the side of it, and for that, obviously that's quite a funny joke when I saw it. It did make me laugh, but to see that instantly, where you've got two kids that they're obviously going to be some kind of main characters, but we don't
Mm,
know how much of an
yeah,
impact they're going to have in
no,
the film. Whether they're going to start off and then like creep into a supporting kind of role or support a Ghostbuster or two in the film. Who knows? But that you've got four Ghostbusters in a film that was a heavily like reviewed, like swayed. Critics tried to sway a public opinion of 2016. Like, let's give this a
yeah,
chance. Let's be a little bit politically correct. Let's get this on board with like female power, and let's try and like push a bit of a political movement behind this film. Which obviously like I'm not sure about you, but I like my films to be like, if it's got a message, great. But I want the film to be true to itself first,
yeah.
because it should be art. It should be irrelevant of phases and stuff that's
Mm,
going through at the moment. Like Ghostbusters, it's stands the test of time because it
mm,
exists on its own.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. So so already like it was starting to get my back up, and within the first trailer hitting, like maybe a day, you've then got the four Ghostbusters having the piss stuck out of them, and two like teenagers in a car that people have still like moaned about in a gunner's seat and using equipment that is heavy for men to carry. But we don't know the reasoning behind that. We don't know whether the packs are lighter or there's been some tweaking. So there's still a lot of explanation that can go into that film. But even though obviously you get the people that overanalyze things on the internet and make videos of them, we are then, seeing this reaction. These could end up being two characters that are obviously, like I said before, they could end up being like supporting players or like tread that line between supporting a main cast but not Ghostbusters, and already getting more love than for Ghostbusters in 2016 from one little trailer. I have to try and find this and maybe tweet it out there or something like that, this trailer, because it was just, and it is throwaway, but it just straight away I thought to myself, I want to be talking about Ghostbusters, and it's something like, obviously we've got a podcast and we talk bollocks about films, and and people can sometimes say, how can you talk about a film that much? But films are given such a budget. Films are millions made to advertise. Hours of thought go into films and to be written. So of course people want them to be analysed, and that to me is like a film from 1984 is still being spoken about today by us. Yeah. It's our first episode as well. Like me and you were like, what kind of should we watch? We know what would come to mind. This would come to mind straight away.
Yeah.
And then a film from 2016 is almost like just soulless and a cash grab, and I'm not saying there's not an audience for it, and I'm not saying that some people won't like it, and if you like it, great. Do you know what I mean? And if you like all of them equally, great. You've got more choice to choose from. That's perfect. But it is just amazing to me that a film made in 1984, I still struggle to explain to people that's not seen it. You can explain it, but by your question, what I was thinking is, you're saying, can you explain it well to somebody? Can you sell it them straight away? Like I know that you should be able to sell films to people, and they always say like a premise you should be able to sell. You should be able to, like, what is it like they usually say, like if you can say it within like a couple of minutes or 5 minutes, it's great. But like I really do struggle to like give Ghostbusters any justice when I'm like talking about it. I always kind of, just like go back to the point where I was trying to sell it to my friend to watch, and he was like, almost the fear in his eyes. I'm going, this is the greatest film. This film's so good. There's so many films that should never be remade, should never be touched by Hollywood. They should have their own star on their own. They should be in a museum. All these kind of things that I'm trying to hype up the film with, and the guy's looking at me thinking like, it sounds like a child's film. It's just a ride we're talking about. It's like, do you know what I mean? And that's in 1984. We're now looking at the soulless version in 2016. I'm saying that, and I know that obviously people will really like that film, and some people really hate it. It's divisive, but I still can't get over. There's so much to say about it, and it's not a film that like you go, what am I going to do? I'll watch that every 2 or 3 years. That might happen, but like to me, I find myself watching it at least once a year. Halloween comes around. What are you going to do? Well, let's watch Ghostbusters. If it's on the TV, I'm like, let's watch Ghostbusters. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that is the best way that I should really be selling it to people, is saying, like you said, just watch the fucking film.
Do it. You won't regret. You will not regret it. But that's amazing. So, final words.
Just please watch the film. I'm guessing a lot of people know what it is, but I think maybe what it is because I hold the film in such high regard. Maybe that when people talk about it, they go, "Oh yeah, Ghostbusters!" Like it just never seems to get the credit it deserves for me. Like even people who maybe seen it when they were younger go, "Oh yeah, it's a film I watched when I was a kid." It's like, fuck off! It's much better than that.
I would say, definitely. I would say that if you haven't seen it, watch it. If you have seen it, watch it again. Because there'll always be something you appreciate, or there'll be just like a little nugget of little ticks, little something that you might have missed. You might have missed the first time round, fourth time round, 100th time round.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was something to enjoy.
Of course, I was just going to say to you, the one question that I meant to ask you earlier was, you talk about being introduced into the film and the franchise or whatever. But I can remember watching it at my grandma's all the time. I think my granddad had a video shop, and he had like Gremlins and Ghostbusters on the same tape.
Yeah.
He had something else on the Never-Ending Story and something else on the tape. So it's, again, very 80s, very watching these every time I'd go around. Because as a kid, you could watch a film. I don't know about you, probably not as an adult, but as a kid, you could watch a film, and then the next time you go around, watch the same film, and then the next time you go around, watch the same film. So like there was obviously maybe been like a couple of years between like I don't know, seeing the film, and I can remember like, because obviously me and you met back at college, so I can remember like in my days of being 17, 18 or 19 going into HMV as I often like to do every 2 hours or so being at college. I can remember buying the film when it was released on DVD.
Yeah.
And it'd been the first time I probably watched it as I'd say conscious, as in like fully aware of like what the film was, and almost like my first viewing as an adult, if you know what I mean, from that young adult phase, and or from a child even, and so I first watched it, and the moment to me stands out where I go, wow. Yeah, I can remember that, but didn't really get that dialogue was about that. Or wow, do you know what I mean? And it was like that to me. Then went from this is a really good film that I really enjoyed to this film's genius. This film's like works on every level. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know if you can ever remember that yourself when, because obviously me and you being a similar age and stuff. So I don't know if that ever happened to you, but it like because I've not watched it every year. So like you said, like getting that initial like I've watched it for the second time and this is what I missed, and the third time to me it was like obviously those things did happen, but then when I watched it again maybe after like a 3 or 4 year period, but then I was like 18, 19 or whatever, buying the DVD just re-released, watching it and thinking shit, it's like I've almost like grown up and thinking all these things that went over my head. Bill Murray's entire performance probably when I was a child is incredible. So I did have that second wind with it almost, and yeah, no, it's perfect.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Well, that's it for Ghostbusters for Geek and Biscuits. Thank you for watching. If you like what we've done, then if you're on YouTube, then subscribe, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you'd like us to do more of this shit, and there's anything else you want us to talk about, then get in touch, and hopefully we'll see you soon. So goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, cheers. See you later.